Gathering of Indian Brothers. Although Mad Bear is credited as being the founder of the American Indian Unity Movement, it was his collaboration with the Hopi elders, primarily David Montague and Thomas Banyakya, that fortified the intertribal unity consciousness movement from the 1950s to the mid-80s. Author Vine Deloria Jr. of the Standing Rock Sioux, himself a champion of Indian rights, praised Mad Bear and David Montague for leading the most significant movement in religion and Indian affairs today. David's adopted daughter, Zula Brinkerhoff, wrote a book called God's Chosen People of America that was publicly endorsed by the Hopi elders and memorialized their Gathering of Indian Brothers unity events. The mending of the sacred hoop began. Traditionalists versus modernists. In 1906, there was a division in Hopi land between the traditionalists and the modernists, the so-called progressives. The traditionalists were pressured to leave Old Arabi and relocate to Hautavia. In later years, during a 4-day Shungopavi conference of clan leaders, David Montague, along with Thomas Banyakya, Dan Evehima, and Dan Kachongva, were appointed in 1948 to reveal Hopi traditional wisdom and prophecies to the general public, following the horrific atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan by the U.S. This bombing was a gourd of ashes, sign that foretold of events to come, per the Hopi prophecies. These 4 messengers were sent to the United Nations building, aka the House of Mica, the House of Glass, in 1949 to convey the message of the coming purification by fire to the world. They were denied entry. In 1959, 6 messengers, led by Dan Kachongva, made another failed attempt to give a warning to the world of governing bodies. The traditional Hopi elders in the early 1950s to mid-50s made attempts to assert their Hopi autonomy and to protect federal policies affecting their land. During this time, intense exploitation of natural resources were happening. The Hopi traditionalists were among the most vocal opponents of various development projects, like the infamous strip mine operation at Black Mesa, which was approved by the modernists that controlled the tribal council. A pivotal hearing was held via the Commissioner of Indian Affairs in Keams Canyon in July of 1955. This hearing allowed the Hopi traditional to voice their grievances and attempt to dislodge the tribal council. Unfortunately, the modernists, who represented opposing political and spiritual influences, voiced their opinions in the proceedings as well. As a result of this, Indian brothers and religious peoples. The Keams Canyon hearing debacle prompted the traditional elders to seek out like-minded spiritual leaders in other Native American communities. This intertribal orientation, according to James Treat, prompted the Hopi traditionalists to host 2 important meetings in Hautavia in 1956. These events spawned the Gathering of Indian Brothers and Gathering of Religious Peoples that continued up until the late 60s. Indian Brothers gatherings brought traditionalist leaders from many tribes together. Religious peoples gatherings brought native and non-native people together. Zula Brinkerhoff was given permission by David Montague and the Hopi traditionalists in 1965 to publicly spread the messages of the Hopi. In her book, God's Chosen People of America, she has recounts of several gatherings of Indian Brothers meetings that took place in 1959, Hautavia, 1962, Hautavia, 1965, Starved Rock, Indiana, and 1969, Seneca Tonawanda Reservation in New York. The 1969 meeting held on the Tonawanda Reservation was also known as the Unity Convention, which Mad Bear helped organize. A part of Mad Bear's speech is included in Zula's 1969 of the Tonawanda Gathering. He promoted one Indian tribal identity. Mad Bear also talked about the power they had as Indian brothers, with strength greater perhaps than the atomic bombs, with the help of the Great Spirit. Hopi connect with the Iroquois. Chief Clinton Rickard of the Tuscarora, through his Indian Defense League, was an ally of Thomas Banyakya and the Hopi. Mad Bear was noted meeting with the Hopi elders, along with Rolling Thunder, Cherokee, and Samu Huate, Chumash, during the years 1955 and 1956. Mad Bear most likely first met Rolling Thunder and Samu through the Hopi. In May of 1959, after the 6 Hopi messengers were turned down from speaking at the House of Micah, Mad Bear, along with Chief Beeman Logan, Seneca, invited the Hopi, including Thomas Banyakya, to meet with them at the Onondaga Council. Mad Bear was very interested in comparing prophecies of the Dagondawida with those of the Hopi. Mad Bear impressed the Hopi with how well the 6 nations were able to protect, preserve, and keep intact their Longhouse heritage and traditions, despite attempts by boarding schools to destroy their culture and religion. Both parties were surprised to find out that the ancient knowledge and drawings of the Hopi and Iroquois were very similar, even though the two were not aware that they met before. This confirmed the legitimacy of the Hopi migration story, which Mad Bear had become a proponent of. Prior to Chief Clinton Rickard and Mad Bear's introduction and connection with the Hopi, the southwestern tribes of America were led to believe by the propaganda, leaflets dropped off by an airplane, of the Indian Affairs Office that the tribes east of the Mississippi River were non-existent. The gathering of Indian brothers connected the east with the west and the north with the south. Mad Bear and the Hopis developed their relationship and became forces to be reckoned with. Mad Bear, being much younger and full of energy, kept the more reserved Hopis on their feet. In Chapter 2 of God's Chosen People of America, Zula talks about the Hopi's story of Indian corn. She explains that Indian corn grows in 4 pure colors: black, white, red, and yellow, which represents the 4 directions and the 4 pure races. Then Zula explains that a very long time ago, the Great Migration occurred. The Great Spirit told the Hopi they must send their scouts and their families to the 4 directions of the earth to claim the world for the Creator. The point of beginning was Hopi Land. At the 1962 gathering of Indian brothers in Hotovia, there were some chiefs and medicine people there from distant lands that were given a sign that they must return to their place of origin. There was a man from China named Abat Tulun, who explained that he was not Chinese. He was a pure-blood Indian, just like his 500-member tribe, who have lived in China for hundreds of years and have not mixed their blood with any other race of people. He had sacred Indian signs and symbols as tattoos. The Hopi house structures and Indian ceremonies were similar to his tribe. William Willoya from Alaska and Daddy Bree from Hawaii had a similar story to Abbott's of returning to a point of origin. William Rickard, son of Chief Clinton Rickard, from the Tuscarora Reservation where Mad Bear lived, also shared this migration story, and he carried a picture of a sacred handprint that connected his tribe with the Hopi. There are other interesting examples of Hopi migration and connections in faraway places. In 8th century Tibet, the second Buddha, Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche, stated, "When the iron eagle flies in the sky and stone bridges cover rivers, horses with wheels will run on roads. East will meet west. Red people will meet red people. At that time my teachings will benefit the world." In another translation, this was quoted him as saying, "When Tibetans are scattered throughout the world, and horses run on iron wheels, and when iron birds fly, the Dharma will come to the land of the red man." The perception of similarity between Native American of the Southwest and the Tibetans is undeniably striking. Beyond the common physicality and turquoise jewelry, parallels include the abundant use of silver and coral, the colors and patterns of textile and long braided hair, sometimes decorated, worn by both men and women. Cultural affinities between these Hopi and the Tibet were noted by author Frank Waters in his book Of the Hopi, 1963. He cited corresponding systems of chakras within the body meridians that were used to cultivate cosmic awareness. In The Masked Gods book, 1950, Frank wrote about Pueblo and Navajo ceremonialism, observing that the Zuni Shalako dance symbolically mirrored the Tibetan journey of the dead. Migrating from elsewhere. The Hopis talk about migrating from elsewhere. This may be the reason that they share similarities with the Sumerians. Both believed two brothers had guardianship over the earth. Many words were pronounced and spelled alike and share similar meanings. Lost brother, Pahana. Ancestor from heaven who returns, Pahana. Father, creator, Ka. Spiritual guides, Alo. Spiritual beings from heaven, Alu. Spirit messengers of nature, Kachinas. Katsina. Pleiades star cluster, Trichukam. Supreme star, Shukam. Snake, Chu and Shu. Up, Omik, Amik, etc. So the story of the corn symbolizes 4 directions, 4 races of Indian brothers, and one great spirit, all united as a sacred hoop. This creation story in general is not unique just to the Hopi. The Australian Aborigines and many other tribes share similar stories. Scientists as well believe that 250 to 300 million years ago, there was only one land mass at the time. One land mass, one people.